If you don't decide who you are before the world does, you'll spend your whole life living someone else's plan. I know where you're standing right now, between who you used to be and who you feel called to become. You've survived seasons that tried to shrink you. You've smiled through doubt. You've carried strength quietly. But 2026 is not asking you to survive anymore. It's asking you to rise, not loudly, not arrogantly, but intentionally. This is your coming season. Before 2026 arrives, there are 5 things an alpha woman chooses. Not someday, not when it's easy, but now. There is a quiet lie we are taught early in life, that motivation is what moves mountains. That you feel inspired enough, confident enough, ready enough, then you'll finally become the woman you dream of being. But real life teaches you something very different. Motivation comes and goes. It rises with applause and disappears in silence. Discipline, however, stays. Discipline shows up when motivation is asleep, and that is where real power is built. I learned this in moments no one saw. Long before any spotlight, long before validation, there were ordinary days filled with doubt. Days when the work felt invisible. Days when effort went unanswered. Days when quitting would have been easier than continuing. And in those moments I realized something sacred. Success is rarely dramatic. It is repetitive. It is quiet. It is earned in small decisions made consistently. An alpha woman does not wait to feel ready. She understands that readiness is not a feeling, it's a decision. She gets up even when her body wants rest. She keeps promises to herself, even when no one is holding her accountable. She chooses discipline not because it feels good, but because it builds trust with herself. And self-trust is an unshakable strength. There is something deeply spiritual about discipline. It is the daily act of honoring the future you believe in, even when the present feels uncomfortable. When you choose discipline, you are telling the universe, I take myself seriously. And the world responds to that energy. People sense it. Opportunities recognize it. Respect follows it. Before 2026, an alpha woman stops negotiating with her potential. She stops saying tomorrow. When she knows the work must be done today, she understands that comfort is seductive, but it always comes at a cost. Every time you choose comfort over commitment, you delay your own becoming. Discipline, on the other hand, compounds. What feels small today becomes unstoppable tomorrow. She builds routines that protect her energy. Morning habits that ground her, evening rituals that restore her. She doesn't rely on bursts of motivation, she relies on systems. Because systems carry you when emotions fail, and emotions will fail. That's not a weakness, that's humanity. There were times I felt uncertain, times when fear whispered louder than faith. But discipline gave me something fear could not take: momentum. When you move consistently, doubt loses its grip. Action silences anxiety. Progress builds belief. An alpha woman knows this. You don't rise to the level of your dreams. You fall to the level of your discipline. That truth changes how you live. It changes how you show up on days when no one is cheering. It changes how you speak to yourself when results are slow. It teaches patience. It teaches humility. It teaches endurance. Discipline is choosing growth over excuses. It is doing the work even when results are delayed. It is trusting the process even when outcomes are uncertain. And that kind of faith is rare. Before 2026, this woman stops romanticizing success and starts respecting the grind. She understands that consistency is not glamorous, but it is powerful. that showing up daily is more impressive than showing off occasionally. That mastery is built in repetition, not revelation. And something beautiful happens when discipline becomes your identity. You stop needing validation. You stop waiting for permission. You stop doubting your worth. Because every disciplined action reinforces a quiet truth: I can rely on myself. That is the foundation of confidence. Not loud words, not external praise, but inner evidence. An alpha woman doesn't chase motivation. She trains discipline. She chooses structure over chaos, commitment over convenience, purpose over procrastination. Because when discipline leads, everything else follows, and this is only the beginning. There comes a moment in every woman's life when she realizes the most powerful conversation she will ever have is the one she has with herself. Not the opinions shouted from the outside, not the labels placed by society, but the quiet, constant voice that speaks in the pauses between moments. That voice can either become your greatest ally or your most dangerous enemy. I had to learn this the hard way. For years, I listened more to doubt than to truth. I measured myself against timelines that were never meant for me. I questioned my worth in rooms where I should have trusted my presence. And slowly, almost invisibly, I began to shrink. Not because I lacked ability, but because I allowed the wrong voices to lead. An alpha woman understands this early. The mind is sacred territory. What you allow to live there shapes everything. Your confidence, your courage, your capacity to rise. Before 2026, she becomes fiercely intentional about her inner dialogue. She no longer speaks to herself with cruelty disguised as honesty. She replaces criticism with clarity, fear with faiths. She stops asking, "Am I good enough?" and starts declaring, "I am prepared." She stops saying, "What if I fail?" and begins asking, "What if I grow?" This shift is subtle, but it changes everything. Because the brain believes what it hears most often. And when your own voice becomes supportive instead of destructive, strength follows naturally. There were moments when uncertainty felt overwhelming. Moments when the future looked unclear. But I learned that faith is not about certainty, it's about trust. Trust in your preparation. Trust in your journey. Trust that delays are not denials. An alpha woman speaks to herself with patience because she understands timing is divine. She also learns to quiet the noise of comparison. Comparison is the thief of presence. It pulls you out of your own lane and places you in a race that was never yours. Before 2026, she releases the pressure to mirror someone else's success. She focuses on alignment instead of approval, growth instead of validation. Her self-talk becomes grounded, not arrogant, confident, not loud. She doesn't inflate herself, but she doesn't minimize herself either. She speaks truthfully. I am learning. I am evolving. I am allowed to take up space. An alpha woman understands that mastery of the mind is daily work. Some days require courage. Some days require compassion. And some days require silence. She learns when to push herself and when to hold herself gently. Strength, after all, is not always force. Sometimes it is restraint. Before 2026, she builds mental rituals. Gratitude in the morning, reflection at night, prayer, meditation, or stillness. Whatever reconnects her to something higher than fear. These moments recalibrate her spirit. They remind her that she is not walking alone. And slowly something powerful happens. Her inner voice becomes steady, encouraging, clear. In moments of pressure, she doesn't panic, she listens. In moments of doubt, she doesn't collapse, she remembers. Because when the inner voice is aligned, external chaos loses its control. An alpha woman does not outsource her confidence, she cultivates it. She protects her peace like a responsibility. She knows that every thought is a seed, and she chooses carefully what she plants. Before 2026, she decides this: I will not be my own obstacle. And with that decision, she becomes unstoppable. Not because the world GE quieter, but because her mind becomes stronger. There is a kind of strength that doesn't raise its voice. It doesn't explain itself. It doesn't seek approval. It simply chooses peace. And for a long time, I didn't understand this kind of strength. I thought strength meant endurance. Staying, adjusting, overgiving, absorbing discomfort quietly. I thought if I was patient enough, kind enough, flexible enough, people would meet me with the same respect. But life teaches you differently. There comes a moment when you realize that love without boundaries becomes self-betrayal. That accessibility without discernment becomes exhaustion. And that silence in the face of disrespect is not humility, it's harm. An alpha woman learns this lesson deeply. She understands that boundaries are not rejection. They are self-respect made visible. Before 2026, she releases the guilt that comes with choosing herself. She no longer explains her no. She no longer apologizes for protecting her energy. She no longer stays in spaces where her spirit feels heavy and unseen. I learned that saying no does not make you cold, it makes you clear. And clarity is kindness to yourself and to others. When you are clear about what you allow, people either rise to meet you or reveal their intentions. Both outcomes are blessings. An alpha woman understands that not everyone deserves access to her heart, her time, or her dreams. Access is earned through consistency, respect, and alignment. She stops pouring into people who only show up when they need something. She stops negotiating with behavior that diminishes her light. This is not about becoming distant or guarded. It is about becoming intentional. She loves deeply, but wisely. She gives generously, but not at the cost of her well-being. She recognizes that her peace is her responsibility. Before 2026, she learns to walk away without drama, without announcements, without bitterness. Walking away becomes an act of self-trust. She understands that staying in spaces that dishonor her delays the life that's trying to find her. There were times when I feared that boundaries would make me lonely, but what I discovered was the opposite. Boundaries created space. Space for healthier relationships, clearer connections, and deeper alignment. They filtered out noise and allowed truth to enter. An alpha woman does not fear being misunderstood. She fears betraying herself. She knows that temporary discomfort is better than long-term resentment, that peace is worth more than popularity, and that her energy is sacred. Before 2026, she stops forcing closeness. She allows distance where respect is missing. She understands that some people are lessons, not lifetimes. And releasing them does not erase love, it honors growth. Boundaries also teach others how to treat you. When you stop tolerating disrespect, you raise the standard. When you stop over-explaining, you command presence. When you stop chasing, you attract alignment. An alpha woman doesn't build walls. She builds doors with locks. And she decides who holds the key. This is quiet power. This is emotional maturity. This is the kind of strength that changes everything. Not overnight, but permanently, before 2026. She chooses peace over people-pleasing. and in doing so, she finally chooses herself. Comfort has a way of convincing you that you are safe, when in reality it is keeping you still. It whispers that you've done enough, that this is good enough, that there is time later. And for a while, I listened. I chose ease over effort, familiar over challenging, predictable over purposeful, until one day I realized comfort was costing me my growth. An alpha woman reaches this realization early. Growth demands discomfort, not chaos, not burnout, but deliberate stretching. Before 2026, she stops asking what feels easy and starts asking what will make her better. Every meaningful shift in my life required me to outgrow a version of myself. New rooms demanded new skills. New levels required new discipline. And every time I felt uncomfortable, it wasn't a sign I was failing. It was a sign I was expanding. An alpha woman invests in her growth even when no one is watching. She reads when others scroll. She trains when others rest. She learns when others complain. She understands that knowledge compounds, skills appreciate, and preparation opens doors long before opportunity knocks. She does not chase trends, she builds depth. She chooses skills that travel with her. Communication, emotional intelligence, leadership, financial awareness, self-mastery. These are not glamorous investments, but they are powerful. They create independence, they create choice. Before 2026, she becomes a student of herself. She identifies her weaknesses without shame and her strengths without ego. She asks hard questions. Where am I avoiding growth? Where am I settling? Where am I numbing instead of building? There were moments when I felt behind, moments when progress felt slow. But I learned that growth is not always visible. Roots grow underground before anything blooms above the surface. An alpha woman trusts this process. She stays committed even when results are delayed. She also learns the difference between rest and escape. Rest restores you. Escape distracts you. One is intentional, the other is avoidance. Before 2026, she becomes honest with herself about how she spends her time. Time reveals priorities, and priorities shape destiny. An alpha woman is not afraid to be uncomfortable in the short term because she is committed to freedom in the long term. She understands that sacrifice is not loss, it is exchange. You give up who you are to become who you are meant to be. She surrounds herself with people who challenge her thinking, not just affirm her comfort. She welcomes feedback that sharpens her, not praise that pacifies her. Growth requires humility, and humility keeps you teachable. Before 2026, she stops romanticizing talent and starts respecting effort. She understands that consistency outperforms intensity, that small, disciplined actions repeated daily reshape identity. An alpha woman doesn't wait for confidence before she acts. Confidence follows action. Courage is built in motion, not meditation alone. She moves forward even when fear is present, because she knows fear is not a stop sign. It's a signal that growth is happening. And slowly, almost quietly, her life begins to change. Not because she forced it, but because she prepared for it. Before 2026, she chooses growth over comfort. Every time, there comes a stage in a woman's life when success alone is no longer enough. Achievements lose their shine if they are not anchored in meaning. Applause feels empty if it is not aligned with purpose. I reached that understanding slowly, through experiences that humbled me and lessons that softened me. And what I learned is this: power without service feels heavy. Purpose makes it light. An alpha woman understands that her strength was never meant to be self-serving. Before 2026, she aligns her ambition with contribution. She asks not only, how far can I go, but also how many lives can I touch along the way. This does not mean shrinking your dreams. It means elevating them. It means allowing your success to become a bridge, not a pedestal. When your goals include service, your resilience deepens. Because setbacks no longer feel personal, they feel purposeful. There were moments when ego tempted me, moments when recognition felt intoxicating. But life has a way of reminding you where real fulfillment comes from. It comes from impact, from using your voice to uplift, from creating opportunities instead of just collecting them. An alpha woman practices gratitude even as she strives. Gratitude keeps her grounded. It reminds her that she is not self-made, she is grace-made, strengthened by people who believed in her, lessons that shaped her, and faith that carried her when certainty was absent. Before 2026, she builds a relationship with stillness, prayer, reflection, silence, whatever connects her to something higher than fear and ego. Because when you listen inwardly, you move outwardly with clarity. Faith does not eliminate struggle, but it gives struggle meaning. She understands that leadership is service, that influence is responsibility, that the higher she rises, the more intentional she must become about how she shows up. She leads with compassion, not control, with integrity, not image. An alpha woman lifts other women without competition. She celebrates without comparison. She knows there is room for everyone at the table, and if there isn't, she builds a bigger one. This is not weakness. This is confidence rooted in abundance. Before 2026, she releases the need to prove herself. She lets her work speak, her values speak, her consistency speaks. Ego is loud, purpose is calm. She also understands that legacy is built in everyday choices, in how you treat people when no one is watching, in how you respond under pressure, in how you give credit, in how you forgive. He say moments define who you are becoming. An alpha woman does not measure her worth by titles or timelines. She measures it by alignment. Is my life reflecting my values? Am I growing with grace? Am I leaving things better than I found them? And when the answer is yes, fulfillment follows naturally. Before 2026, she chooses purpose over performance, faith over fear, service over ego. Because when ambition is guided by faith and service, nothing is wasted. Not the struggle, not the delay, not the pain. Everything becomes preparation. And this is the quiet truth that carries her forward. When you walk with purpose, you don't chase success. You attract impact. Before 2026 arrives, understand this. You are not becoming someone new. You are remembering who you were always meant to be. Every disciplined choice you make is building trust with yourself. Every kind word you speak to your own mind is healing old wounds. Every boundary you set is protecting your future. Every uncomfortable stretch toward growth is expanding your capacity. Every act of service is anchoring your success in meaning. Nothing you've been through was wasted. Not the delays, not the doubts, not the seasons when you felt unseen. They were shaping you. You don't need permission to rise. You don't need validation to move forward. You don't need to explain your evolution to anyone who benefits from your stagnation. Walk with discipline, speak with faith, choose growth, protect your peace, serve with humility. And when fear shows up, let it walk anyway, because the world doesn't need a quieter you. It needs a grounded you, a disciplined you, a purposeful you. Don't just dream about the woman you want to become. Honor her with your choices every single day. The future isn't waiting for you, it's responding to you. Step forward with grace in your heart, fire in your spirit, and faith guiding every step. Peer ahead. Before you walk back into your life, carry this truth with you. What is meant for you will never need force, only faith and obedience. When you show up with discipline, life meets you with direction. When you protect your peace, God protects your path. When you serve with humility, blessings find you quietly. You don't have to rush your becoming. You don't have to compete with anyone else's timeline. You only have to stay aligned. Trust the work you are doing in the dark. Trust the strength being built in silence. Trust that every step taken with integrity is already taking you closer. Walk forward boldly, not because the road is easy, but because you are ready. And remember this always: when faith leads, fear loses its power. And when you live with purpose, nothing in your life is ever wasted.